So greetings and welcome back to the studio of Wild Treasures of an Outdoorsman. My name is Peter Updike, and today we're going to talk about the Croom Wildlife Management Area. I did a muzzleloader hunt there at Croom and had a great experience. I had some things that I need to share with you just to give you some insight on, the management area and how to approach it. So I did a muzzleloader hunt. It would be the first time that I exercised my status as an exempt hunter. That means 65 years of age or older. I didn't need a quota permit to do the muzzleloader hunt. So I'm going to tell you how it all went down, but first we have a little business we have to tend to. My book, Wild Treasures of an Outdoorsman, written by me, I had to make the game time decision to not offer my book over the Christmas holidays. I'm running low on books. I want to sell the books, but I'd much rather sell you the book and shake your hand. So the balance of the books that I have left, without having to go to a third print, I'm going to make available at the Wild Turkey Extravaganza and whatever other book events that we might do. I'd much rather talk to you about hunting and fishing and all things connected rather than stand down at the post office and mail you a copy. I'll offer them for $10 a copy when we do a book event, whereas they're more than that if you purchase them online. They're still available online. I think you can get copies at Pat's Pawn and Gun on their website. On eBay, just punch in Wild Treasures of an Outdoorsman or Peter Updike on eBay, and they'll come up. Pat's Pawn and Gun offers them on their website. So, he's still doing website sales, so the book is still available last time I checked, if you want one for Christmas. But I'm not going to be making them available anymore online. And when those are gone, that's it. I want to save the balance of the books that I have. Hunting and fishing, growing up crazy and wild in Central Florida. That's what it's about. And it's a collection of short stories. And it's my book. I wrote it, and I hope to meet you and greet you and sell you a copy of my book signed by me for $10 one day at the Spring Gobbler Turkey event in Webster, Florida. We're going to do it again in February. I think it's the 1st or the 2nd in February. So, we'll talk about it as time goes by. Okay, Croom. Croom is located, the Croom Wildlife Management Area is open for hunting. I did a little scouting in the Croom. It's about 20,000 acres, and it's right on the Sumter County, I guess it's Hillsborough County and Sumter County line. The Withlacoochee River is the barrier there for the county. And I was surprised at the habitat. If you've ever been there, it reminded me a lot of citrus wildlife management area, the openness of the longleaf pine and the upland atmosphere of the habitat, with exception to the river. The river's got a pretty deep swamp in there, and it's a cypress swamp, and it's pretty cool what little bit I saw of it. Again, this is the first time I've hunted it. Now, I did scout it out twice. I went twice and scouted it out, and each time I scouted it, I saw deer. But here's the thing that I've discovered about Croom, is that Croom is a multi-use management area. What does that mean? That means that you're going to have different interest groups using that management area all at the same time. When I say interest groups, I mean hikers on the Florida Trail and all the other trails that splinter off of that. Horseback riders on horse trails and all the trails that splinter off of that. They've got a whole area designated for motorcycle use. I don't know how many acres it is, but it digs into our 20,000 acres. And there are a lot of motorcycle users using that area. You're not allowed to gun hunt or muzzleload hunt in that area, but you are allowed to archery hunt in the motorcycle area. So it's still open for hunting, but you have to archery hunt it during the muzzleloader. There's no designated archery hunt. In other words, they don't have an archery season. They've got a muzzleloader season and a gun season. And if you want to hunt in the motorcycle area, which I don't know why you would, But if you wanted to, if you had a spot, or yeah, you'd have to hunt it with a bow and arrow. And I don't know anyone that's done that, but I'm sure there's someone out there. So anyway, with all those trails, the place, as I experienced it, is a jigsaw puzzle. Imagine you've got a block of woods that's 5 miles wide and 5 miles deep, and you were looking at it, and it was a giant jigsaw puzzle. That's what the trails look like. That in my experience, now I hunted in the center, the very center of the management area. I found a block of woods that I saw deer. I saw habitat that seemed conducive to good deer numbers. Now, a lot of the area is wide open. A lot of the area is just big, tall trees and wide open space with like wiregrass and sawgrass and all these different grasses and some oak trees, a lot of oak trees, and mostly longleaf pine. And if you get in one of those pine trees, man, you can see out across there a long, long way. But in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, it may not be true, but in my opinion, deer in Florida, and it's been my experience, do not appreciate wide open spaces. Although there's the exception to everything, right? I'm sure somebody killed one out there in the middle of that wide open space, and I'm eating my words. But it's not a place that I would find that I'd want to hunt. I always want to hunt the edge of something. I like to hunt the edge of a thicket where I can see down the edge of that thing. So when something steps out, well, then it reveals itself without walking into the open area and maybe feel a little comfortable, or being in that semi-thick area where you can see little patches here and there. That's hard to find in the portion of the Croom Wildlife Management area that I hunted. But I picked out a spot, and I got there. Now, again, I was hunting with my exempt status. You need a quota permit. I think it's 400 quotas. I can't remember. Maybe it was more than that. But 300 quotas, I think, for the muzzleloader hunt. And all of their guests and the exempt hunters. So that could be a lot of people, right? And keeping that in mind, I resist the temptation to try and find a spot before daylight. For fear of bumping somebody else's hunt, I never ever want to interfere with somebody else's hunt. I don't want to get in my tree stand and look across there and see 3 guys sitting there in orange less than 100 yards away. I don't want to do that. So what I did was I arrived late. What's late? 7:35, 30 minutes after daylight. And then I drive and I look for areas that don't have any vehicles in them. And then I look on my map and see if it's conducive to what I want to hunt. So that was the approach on Saturday morning, the first day of the hunt. And it worked. I found a spot that had no one parked in it, and there was even an old flag hanging there on the roadside. So I thought, well, somebody else found this area to be likable, so I'll give it a try. So I pulled on in there. And knowing what I knew about the trails, I knew that I was going to walk into a trail if I walked too far. And I found that spot that I was thinking of that bordered a thicket. And I quickly, of course, I've got my backpack, I got my muzzleloader, and I carry my tree stand on my back so I don't go too far. I just don't want to run into another hunter. And again, with the management area being like it is, it's easily done. So the first tree that I found, the first acceptable place that I saw, I quickly set up and got comfortable. And at that point in time, success. I was set up in a place with the sun to my back, overlooking an area that I was comfortable with, and I wasn't there 15 minutes, and here come a deer. And it walked parallel to me and whipped around me. It was a mature doe, and she was just going along feeding and minding her own business, and she wasn't startled or running from anything or anyone, just passing through. And I was thrilled at the notion that I could just go and sit and see a deer. And I saw a deer, and I thought to myself, well, if that was a buck, I'd have me a deer. But it wasn't a buck. And then 10:30 came around. I did not see another deer. And then 11 o'clock came around. Next thing I know, I'm sitting in the sun. And then I look to my left, and what do I see? I see a hiker coming by. And next thing I know, I realize 6 people later that I am 150 yards from the Florida Trail, one of those trails. And they didn't see me sitting there. I had my back to the tree, and they were behind me, but I could hear them talking. I could hear them walking. And then hunters began coming down that same trail. I counted 6 blaze orange hunters coming down that trail. That's what I experienced. Decided to get down, and I had my folding chair in the truck. I was going to find me another spot and sit in the folding chair. So that's what I did. I went and had lunch, and saw people leaving, saw people coming and going, and I had a spot that I wanted to go sit. So that's what I did. I took my folding chair. It was over by the power line, and went to the power line, found a good spot to sit, and saw a deer on the way in. And then it got set up, and then saw another deer while I was sitting there. This deer was running, and it ran right straight in front of me. And as I was sitting there, I heard a little noise coming, and here come a lady on a bicycle, and she rode right behind me, and then on the left of me, and she seen me sitting there. And yeah, it's not my forte, right? Again, this is the thing that you need to be aware of when you're hunting the Croom Wildlife Management Area. You've got the horse trails, you got the hiking trails, you got the motorcycle trails, and now we can add bicycle trails to that list. And they are going everywhere in every direction within that management area. Not only did I see hikers, but I saw bicyclists. They've got a concrete trail that goes right through the center of the thing, not concrete, but asphalt. Trail that goes right through the center of the thing. If you go over with the Coochie River, there's an asphalt trail that runs parallel with the Coochie River. Nobody wants to deer hunt near an asphalt trail, at least I don't. And where people are going to be recreating. And yeah, that was my first hunt, and I sat out on Sunday and decided I'd hunt Monday, and I would hunt a different section. I would hunt the far eastern end, and that's what I did. And I got on the map, and I found areas that I thought would look good and easier to get to, so that's what I did. And I turned off the road and came down through there. It was just breaking daylight, and one truck after another, after another, after another. I don't blame anybody, but there were hunters all in there. And I finally found me a spot to get. And again, my tree stand, my backpack, and I walked in. And first thing I crossed was the Florida Trail. There was the Florida Trail right there on the roadside. I said, holy smokes, there's another trail. You just can't get away from these trails. But I persisted. And I went through there, and it was head-high vines, longleaf pines, planted pines, and a habitat that was before the swamp, and it was not very attractive. It wasn't what you'd call a postcard hunting picture. But I found me a spot, and I sat in it, and I was there maybe 15 minutes, and 2 deer walked right by me, right underneath me. I thought, wow, things are looking up. And I was in the shade. It was a pretty spot for a while. The sun was to my back, and I was sitting there and wondering just, where I go from here. And I felt like I needed to relieve myself. Now, hunting a climbing stand like a lot of you guys do, and when you got to relieve yourself, sometimes it's a bit of an issue. But I use a Gatorade bottle, and I stand on my tree stand with my gun resting on the rail in front of me, and precariously, with the safety harness on as always, relieve myself so I don't have to get down. And of course, relieving yourself from on top of your stand onto the ground means tree stand, your boots, and everything else. Yeah, you get the picture, right? But I stood up and was leaving myself, and I looked to the left, and I could see a deer. Now, it's an amazing thing that when you're in thick cover and you're deer hunting in thick cover, that you think that you can only see from here to here, or you think you can only see from, point A to point B This way I can only see 20 yards. This way I can only see 30 yards. In front of me I can only see 10 yards, right? And you think you've got this little radius where you can look for your game. But to my surprise, I stood up and I could see a deer through the trees. That was at least 150, maybe 200 yards away, a long way. And I said, holy smokes, look, yonder's a deer. And I stood there for a minute, and I was still relieving myself when the deer bolted and ran off. I could see it just through the trees running. I said, wow, I wonder what spooked that deer. And then I looked up, and there was a bigger deer standing near the area where I saw the smaller deer. And yeah, that deer gave me a moment for pause. And it looked like it was on its head was on the ground feeding, and it was a big-bodied deer, big brown, a very big brown rump. You could see its back, very, very mature looking from what I could see. And I was, looking at him, and finally got myself squared away and picked up my rifle and threw my scope out there just to get a look at it. And I could see it's had its head down, was feeding. I said, that deer's going to lift up its head and it's going to have a rack. And I sat there and the deer looked like it was going to begin walking my way. And it went behind some cover that I couldn't see it. And then that was the last I saw of it. It never lifted its head. It never made its way my way. I don't know which way it went. I only know that I saw 4 deer that morning. And when you compare that to the amount of deer that I saw archery season, that's a pretty good day. During the archery season, I saw no deer all of archery season. I think that's the first time in a lot of years. I hunted the Ocala National Forest exclusively during the archery season. I didn't go anywhere else. And deer, I just did not see a deer. I took Samson with me one day, and he said he saw a button buck. But yeah, speaking of Samson, I was sharing with him my experience and my dislike for the area, that the management area that has all of the trails and all of the multi-use atmosphere of the management area. You've got all of these people, all these Floridians and people visiting, and it's just it's almost like I can't bring myself to say this is the place that I want to hunt. Now I'll probably go back. I'll probably hunt it again. But it's not what I would describe as a wilderness area by any stretch of the imagination. Sure, that I've seen a big old fox squirrel. I've seen a fox squirrel about this big, and I saw deer, and I'm sure there's coyotes in there, and I'm sure there's turkeys, and there's wild hogs, and I'm sure down by that river there's some wilderness area in there. But you don't go very far down that river, and an airboat don't go crashing by, or kayakers out there kayaking, and you can hear people talking and carrying on, and it just goes on and on and on and on. Here's this management area, completely surrounded by urban Florida, and it's 20,000 acres, and it's got wildlife on it, and everybody wants to go there to ride their bicycle, to go hiking and bird watching and taking pictures. And of course, all of those things I support. I support people doing them. I just don't think it's a good idea to mix in my hunting with it. So if I'm going to continue to hunt, I've got to figure it out. And Samson said, every management area is different. Every management area has to have its own approach. In other words, you have to change. If you don't change, if you don't adapt, well, then that management area is going to be closed to you. So that management area is not quite an hour away. And it offers, for me, a muzzleloader hunt. That's a 3-day muzzleloader hunt that I can do, right? And I don't need a quota permit to do it. So if I want to do a muzzleloader hunt that's early season, that's my option. So I have to figure out a way to navigate around those issues and figure it out and go from there, because really, truthfully, I want to kill me a deer. I'd love to kill me a deer on Croom. I know a lot of people that's done it, and Croom is a great wildlife management area. But these are the things that you need to know before you go, that this is what you're going to have to deal with, and it's going to take It's going to take a lot of scouting, and not just scouting where deer are. I've got the idea that there are deer everywhere. Of course, there's going to be deer in some places that they aren't, more in some places than in others. But you're also going to have places that have more people than others. They've got a whole welcome center right there smack dab in the middle of it, the big parking lot, and all these bathrooms and pavilions and welcome and places to park your bicycle and places to park your horse trailers and places to, the only thing's missing is a swing set. Well, that's not the sort of thing that Peter Updike wants to hunt. But again, if I want to hunt it during the muzzleloader season, I'm going to have to figure it out. So that's the Croom Wildlife Management Area. That's my experience. If you're thinking about hunting it, and maybe I think you can hunt it after the first 9 days without a quota permit. I think there is a time, but for the most part, you'll need a quota permit. So if you want to hunt next year, and if it's near your home, you can spend a lot of time figuring out where those spots are. And yeah, it's worth doing. There's going to be some bucks in there somewhere. So a lot of people kill deer. I went by. There is a check station, and I drove by it, and there were people checking in their deer. I got a rifle here I want to show you. I notice a trend among hunters is to hunt with rifles that are those assault type rifles. That looks like an AR with a minimal clip and the paramilitary look. I just wanted to show you my Game Master. It's a Remington. It's a 760 model 760. It's a pump rifle. It's pretty cool. It's chambered in 30-06, and it's an old gun. It's probably pre-1960, if not right there at it. I suppose I could find out, but I really don't care. It's just a great gun. It's a little bit of a heavy gun, and it's got a heavy trigger pull. It's got this magazine here that holds these rounds in it. It's just a cool gun, and it's just old school, right? I've got it fitted with a Leupold scope. And I got this cool leather sling. It's just the high gloss walnut stock with the, look at that, man. That thing is just, that ribbed forearm for pumping it. It's just cool. I love old traditional guns, and this certainly falls in that category. All right, so we're going to continue hunting. What's up next? Muzzleloader hunt. I did a muzzleloader hunt last night in Ocala in Hopkins Prairie. I'm going to go back again. Today's Saturday, so I'm going to go back again tomorrow. I'm going to hunt one of my favorite spots tomorrow. Last night I did just a real quick, drove all the way up there to hunt an hour and a half. Went to 2 spots and did not find them suitable, and finally found a spot, and I sat in my tree for an hour and a half. So yeah, it was fun, and it was great getting out in the woods, and did not run into any people, did not see any hikers, I did not see any bicycle riders, I did not see any motorcycle riders. I've got that place figured out. All I need now is a deer. All right, well, love you guys. We'll talk to you soon. See ya. Bye. Oh man, God, really? Damn.